So now we're into items. We have some items to talk about up next. And I mean, y'all just want to dive right into it then?
Yeah, let's
Oh
go.
crap!
Go
Can you
it.
rewind
Let's
that?
do
You
it.
weren't
All
paying
right, so
attention. Yeah, you want some more
Envenomed
domination
Executioner,
stuff? I got
the
you.
EE is up first.
Yeah, so we've heard about this item. It made its debut in 11.1, and it was very, very popular. We
Very,
are
very
really
solid.
happy to see people being flexible with when they are picking up the actual upgrade to it, because we wanted to make sure one of the main goals for this glyph was to ensure that players felt like they had options to go into earlier anti-heal for hunters specifically.
Yeah.
And so goal accomplished. We did it. Awesome.
Awesome.
I think it did it very well. Yeah.
The other thing that came up that was a little bit problematic was that it was applying that on one basic attack right away, which is very, very strong, considering that hunters who are usually buying this item are able to do that from a range without really being at much risk themselves.
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of break this up and make it a little bit more thematic. And so Executioner has stacks. Now the stacks as well.
That makes sense.
Stacks on stacks on
That makes
stacks.
sense. Straightforward. I like that. Cool. So next up, we're maneuvering on the mannequins, both the scepter and the mace. It looks like.
Yeah, this one was a good like quality of life one. I think
Yeah.
The other jungle starter, I think it's Bumba's,
That's
right?
nice.
You're usually anytime you kill a camp,
So
you're
annoying
getting
that
that
it
heal
wasn't
kind of
always
without any
like this,
friction.
actually.
But the issue that we kind of noticed with this one is you have to have the burn applied to the camp in order to get the heal. And there's some cases where I think let's say you have an ability that one shots the camp or something like
Yeah.
that, you weren't getting the heal, and it felt more inconsistent than it felt thematic. So we felt like kind of removing that restriction, making the item more consistent across the board helped kind
It
of.
was
alleviate that
legitimately
pressure.
so
Yeah,
annoying.
and the
that it
numbers and
worked
the way
that
that
way.
this is tuned is still less than Bumba's. You are still not getting the consistent healing like you would if you went Eye of the Jungle. So this starter does still provide very likely the least sustain out of the three, but at least it'll be a little bit more consistent now. So we're hoping that when you expect to get your heals, you're getting your heals and you're not dying a jungle camp. That would suck.
That would suck. It's happened before. Never a good feeling. So we have a few shards to talk about next up.
Yeah.
Specifically the wing shard for the first of them.
So again, going back to 11.1 a little bit, we put in passive shards.
We did.
And they were very
They're
popular.
like, please
which,
stop
is awesome
buying
to see that people are trying out
golden
the
shard.
shiny
We'll do
thing,
anything.
But also, we wanted to make sure that
We'll
our
do
older active
anything.
shards were not getting left behind in the dust. So one big thing that we wanted to do was to give people the ability to have these kind of power spikes or like power plays a little bit more frequently. So 120 seconds, once every 2 minutes, that just wasn't cutting it when the other shards were up kind of all the time.
yeah.
Essentially. So we wanted to move both Wing Shard, which you're seeing here, and Vision Shard, which is the next one, which is going to be a pretty exciting one, from 120 to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So we hope that it gives a little
I'm
bit
gonna buy
more
Golden
potential
Shard
to
instead.
these shards, and I can't wait to see.
I hear
Yeah,
what
all
you're
of you
saying. I
vision
hear what you're
lovers
saying.
out
I'm
there,
going to buy
that's-
Golden
I
Shard.
mean, come on. It's 90 seconds. You got more time. You can spy those
Yep.
critical spots a little easier. So next up, the Soul Eater.
I feel like I'm coming back to 11.1 a lot. It's
Yeah.
almost like we did a lot of changes in that
It's
patch.
almost like it was a really big update. It's weird. Anyway.
We did a very big lifesteal update in
You did.
11.1.
It was a lot.
And we were excited to see that a lot of lifesteal items were still seeing like pretty solid
a pretty big
changes in
solid
terms
buff,
of like
actually.
how they felt
That's
to
10th hour, yeah.
play into gods or into lanes
5
and like
base,
what
5
that
evolution.
dichotomy kind of
Pretty
looked
big.
like. But
Yeah.
one item that has been just missing from this whole equation has been Soul Eater.
Soul Eater.
So one thing that we wanted to focus around was to make this very succinctly kind of this early game item that you can get. That's still, the price is reasonable. It is higher than it was before, and we're not changing the healing because the healing is the part that kind of makes it. I'm gonna struggle to find a word other than annoying right now, but
Fair.
it can be a little bit difficult
That's
to
fair.
play around in like solo lane when it comes to we're just healing the whole
Yeah.
time. We're not really fighting each
Feeling
other.
healthy.
So instead of that, we just want to make you stronger in terms of your lane pressure, in terms of the way that you fight people, and hopefully this will give you a nice power spike to play around when you're picking up Soul Eater.
Cool. So Book of Thoth looks like it was sent back to the editors. Couple revisions came back to us. What happened?
Yes.
You want to go?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna preamble.
very
I'm sorry.
Okay,
There's
go for it.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
changes in this next section because it's gonna involve a lot of things. And
It was
the
a
first thing you're seeing on
mandatory
the screen here
buy,
is the Book of
so-
Thoth nerf. So I want to preface this by saying
All right,
this is the Mage big change that we've been kind of waiting for. I know that we've been seeing a lot of ability hunters in mid,
Yeah.
and that has not been very delightful for our mid lane mains. So I want to make sure that we are kind of shifting the balance here. So you're seeing Book of
Eyeball.
Thoth get nerfed because this is kind of the mainstay. When you're playing a mage, you get Book of Thoth. That's kind of the deal. But this is the only nerf, and we are instead pulling this power from Book of Thoth to kind of really try to force a bit of a shift here in terms of Book of Thoth's not going to be the mainstay that it was. many other items are getting nice additional quality of life or power or whatever it might be buffs, and we got a big list of those.
We got a big list. I mean, it's just time to work down it.
I mean, to be fair, literally, you buy a book of stuff and you don't even think about it every single
so Enchanted Spear is the tier 2 of the flat pens, and so essentially what we're doing here is giving it a little bit better of a power spike towards the beginning of the game, and not specifically power, but penetration is important in terms of being able to clear camps and things like that that do have moderately high magical protections in certain instances, and this will also help against players as well.
It certainly will. So moving past that, we have the Spear of Desolation. Good old Deso.
So I guess the next couple of changes here are just going to be some power, as we talked about
If
before.
you want to rattle through them, let's do it.
11.1 had the change to the class passes,
that's a very
which
good
took away
item
a
for
little
sure.
bit of power at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Flat pen, you obviously want to kind of put towards the beginning of your build, so a little bit more power at the beginning, put power back into that flat pen.
Makes sense. So and that looks like it's
Reminder
following
that
suit for
Smite 2
Spear of
doesn't have
Desolation,
flat
Divine
pen
Ruins
because
that
flat
way,
pen
and then we
is
get a
not a
bit more
good
of that
idea.
penetration for Cursed Orb, though.
So
Yes, this one's exciting.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a big shift here. Cursed Orb is the tier 2 for Doom Orb.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when it comes to the theming of this item, it's been a bit back and
Flat
forth. Right?
pen
There was
instead of
time where it
percent
was
pen on
really high
Doom.
power. I know
Okay,
back
so
in
they're
the
telling you
metas
to
when
buy
you
it
were playing
early
that
instead of
skill,
Book
it's
of
a very,
Thoughts.
very popular first item. And so we're thinking,
Buy
if it's a
Doom
very
Orb.
popular first item because of the passive, why does it have percent pen? Let's just lean into it being, this early game item. And so we're changing the pen from percent to flat to really emphasize that you have more flat pen options.
Yeah.
And you can go this one in the beginning of the game and not feel too bad about it.
Cool. I mean,
Book of Thoth and the Doom Orb's
Cool.
looking
And it
pretty good
evolves
right
kind
now.
of into Doom Orb in
Double
that way
flat
then.
pen early,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting to kind
And
of
they increase
reintroduce
the
that
magical
build diversity
power.
again,
Maybe
especially
Doom Orb into
'cause
Book of
as we said
Thoth,
at the start,
honestly.
right, Book of Thoth
Maybe
kinda
Doom
getting
Orb
that shift.
first.
If that was mostly that kind of first item that people were getting, this really helps, bring in another first item and a couple other first items from that list.
Yeah, a little more build diversity. Like it just, like you said, broadening the horizon.
Gotta go fast.
Potential builds. So it looks like we're kind of diving into just a sweep of magical power increases. So.
Yes.
Rod of Tahuti and its glyphs, more power.
Yep, this is kind of known more like as an end cap or like towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
But because mages were still also losing power over their levels, we wanted to make sure that we were hitting kind of all aspects of their build with some number of power buffs. So yeah, you'll see Rod of Tahuti is kind of on the other end of things, but we've got more items as well.
This is usually an item you're not really building till 4th or 5th slot, right? So it really is targeting that sort of late game.
Yeah, which is a good contrast to the Doom Orb and what we just talked about, like diversifying the early game, giving more potential power to the end game. It really is kind of a sweeping change, which is cool. So from Rod of Tahuti, Charon's Coin.
Yeah,
more
kind
power.
of same idea. This is more of like a mid-game item just because you do want to stack it up.
Buffing
if you
Charon's
can.
Coin.
You're
If they're
so happy
buffing
that it's
Charon's
a
Coin,
20%
then
pen item, so
certainly
not
they
bad to
must
have
be
in the
buffing
mid-game, but
Obshar.
stacking it is also really nice. So a little bit more
They
mid-game
must be.
oriented.
A little more mid-game. Next up, Soul Gem.
It's been a minute since we've been seeing some soul gems.
It has.
So even with the lifesteal changes, this one has still been kind of under-purchased, underperforming. So it deserves a power buff.
It does, and that it will get. We have Spear of Mages. Up next, more power.
Yep, more power.
More
kind
power.
Of same deal. This is another mid-game item.
Is this
sharpened
a
the spear, we
very
put more
literal
magic into it.
version
All-
of power
it's
creep?
it's good to go.
Is that what
Sonic
we're
Grip up
witnessing?
next.
A very,
don't worry,
a very
you magical
straightforward
ADC
version
feed, so you've got your
of power
help
creep.
as well. A little bit of extra power here on Demonic Grip. Again, another mid-game item to really kind of keep that power train going.
All right, and so we're ending on something.
Oh, this one's exciting.
A little different. I was about to say this one deserves a little more preface. We've moved past Power Nation, and now we're into this one. This one's I don't know.
fun.
I'm hyped for this one. So Sphinx's Bauble getting a change, and what is that change?
Yeah, so we're actually removing the protection healing self debuff. I actually remember being in this conversation. We were kind of chatting about what are the reasons that people aren't picking up this item, because we think it's really interesting. The way that
It is. It's one of those
stuff like that.
It's one of those that changes a core mechanic of the game. Like
Exactly.
It's crazy.
But what we noticed, and I think we found
You
it
guys
a
are
little bit
about to have an
frustrating, right,
awful
which was
time with me
that
playing
sort
Janus
of,
every game with my
detriment or
built-in
that drawback
penetrations. Like I just built
really makes
50%
players not want to pick
CDR.
this up, and it already stat
With
wise
buffed
is not
power,
the most
LOL.
efficient to begin with.
Y'all about to have
So
a
it's kind of like
bad
double
week
negative when it
next
has
week.
a drawback plus that stat inefficiency. So we figured at this point it might be more interesting of a pickup if we just remove that drawback.
Yes, exactly. And that also opens
Buff
up to
the
being a little
Doom
bit more
Orb as
flexible
well.
too. When we were seeing this item,
my
a lot of
goodness.
times it was on supports. And again, it's not a stat efficient item for supports by any means, but could pick it up. It's not, debuffing your procs anymore. It's not, reducing your healing. So we're excited to see kind of what the potential of this item has. We still think it will still be.
It actually could be kind of a 6/6 item for support.
But it's fun. It's
like
fun.
a Geb
so
with an extra 10% cooldown on the shield and stuff could be dope.
Trying all of these new like fun things.
If you could find a way to get the 40% CDR in.
Maybe it gets a little bit
prophetic, Priven.
If y'all pop off and are like, Sphinx's Bauble is where it's at, and here's
Afro
why.
support, you shut your filthy mouth.
Somehow missed it. Like,
you
that'll
shut
be cool. Horrifying.
your
probably,
mouth.
But y'all will figure it out. Y'all
okay?
always do.
I said Geb.
So, well, awesome.
Geba.
That does it for item balance. Now there's a lot of really cool balance still to come. But we're gonna dabble back out into some cool cosmetics with this patch's cross-gen pass, the Oni Slayer cross-gen pass. So I've talked about it. Last year we had the bigger, longer battle passes, but this year, the year 11, the Road to Smite 2, we're in the cross-gen pass area. And the cross-gen passes have skins that are cross-gen. It's that simple. So there's going to be one per patch, and each of these is going to have 2 skins usually, and a sprinkling of other cool cosmetics that you can earn throughout the patch that will be ready for you in Smite 2. So
I can't believe Karen's coin got buffed, but not Obshard when you already buy Karen's coin over Obshard. Unless I'm dumb and I missed it.
Oh, dude, I love this card art.
Yeah, I absolutely love this color scheme. I love like white and reds and that shoulder piece. It's such a nice touch.
Yeah, he's got a really cool look to him. I mean, I'm just like, I love the King Arthur skin. I love King Arthur, but can I just shout out our incredible art team? Like, this piece is incredible.
It is. Point yourself out in the picture. That's me on the right. I got the cool round hat. So, but I absolutely love it. I love this. It's a completely outside of, because, King Arthur, the knight aesthetic.
I love the clouds.
Bro. The details on the skin are incredible.
Yeah.
Can I just say that?
It's just, I love the pauldron. It's got the scary.
No, the details in the skin will be incredible when we see it in a much better engine.
He definitely looks like he's seen a couple battles in his time.
He definitely
much better
has. And again, it's just such a cool reimagining of King Arthur. And I'm gonna say that thing I love to say. It's cross-gen. Let's check out the Smite 2 render.
Oh yeah.
It's better.
So cool.
Much better.
It's able to be a little sharper than Smite 1 because it's on a newer platform. So you just see the definition of things so much more clearly.
Yeah, that's a good term for it, definition. I just really love to see again the difference in materials, and you can really feel like the depths of shadow. Like you can tell like the stance this guy in is really solid.
Yeah.
Why is Smite 2 sword
I could stare
longer?
at this for another 45
some swords
minutes,
are just
but we have
longer
things to move on to. Specifically, the second
just
skin
kinda life,
in this event, the Dark Supreme Nuwa skin.
Oh, hello.
It was a Nuwa skin. I was right.
Change of pace a little bit.
I love this theme.
I actually got one.
Yeah.
She's
I
like
got a
super
skin prediction
spooky
right.
elf lady, and yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I hadn't even looked at the ears, and I hadn't picked up on that. I was distracted by the horns and also the guys in the background.
Yeah, those are her minions, I presume.
You know what? You are probably right about that. One of the things I love about Nuwa skins
are
is
all
how
her
everyone,
minions today,
the floating
Conrad.
crystals take on a different shape.
Oh.
Yep.
So, because these ones are they're like crystal torches almost,
Yeah.
So that's just
That's a good point.
That's just a me thing. It's just with every Nuwa skin, I'm like, but what are the crystals? So let's check out what this skin looks like in Smite 2.
Ooh.
The textures, again, I keep saying it, but it keeps being true. Gosh dang it, our art team's crazy.
That's true. Honestly, if you ever see them on Twitter or in the world at an SWC, I don't think you can thank them enough for all the incredible work they do. So shout out to them, especially because again, we're making skins that can jump a 10-year generational gap from one game to another. I don't even understand how that works, and I work at the company. I work around these people, and I'm like, how do you make skins that can exist in 2 places at once? It's magic. So it's godly work, you could say. But
Dang.
anyway, now that I've said that, that will be the next cross-gen pass, Oni Slayer. It will be available next Tuesday when the patch comes out. So look out for that. Earn those skins so that they will be waiting for you in Smite 2. So now we're back into balance land, right? And we're gonna do a little balance. We have one more non-balance and then some more balance. So we got a little back and forth left to go. But this balance is framed a little differently. Y'all must have set up your computers in a kitchen, because y'all just been cooking for a while now. Yeah, I've been trying to get caught up. Obviously, I don't know nearly as much. Y'all are the brains behind this. So I've just been staring outside the window, looking in.
Going into God balance?
Whoa. So let's just get right into it. So first off, we have a little bit of standard god balance, right?
Standard so to kind of preface where we're at right now, we have got
item changes were basically, yo, mages are getting buffed.
And so this first section is going to be the buffs that you're typically used to seeing. These are just your standard underperforming characters for some reasons or another. And so Kronos is our first one up on our list. And again, we talked a little bit earlier with the items that mages just in general were performing not very great, but Kronos was the standout compared to his mage ADC brethren in terms of he was extra underperforming. So just a small buff to stop time, especially in the early game, which is where Kronos tends to be the weakest. It's part of his clear, but the problem is that he has got the really quick repetitive clear in his one, but stop time is kind of the tool that he uses to keep himself alive and clear, and being able to have a little bit better access to that is just going to help him survive through the early game.
Fair enough. Well, as somebody who doesn't know how to play Kronos and can't counterplay him, I hate it. Let's move on to Serket.
Serket up next, and you would think that Serket would have been doing pretty well considering just how strong crit was recently.
Serket is awful.
Especially because crit has been nerfed, and that's like a lot of Serket's thing. She's not been doing too hot. So we want to kind of give her a little bit of extra help in terms of getting the fight started because she is very single target. That's like a lot of what Serket does is that she runs one person down and can blow them up. But if she's not getting the fight started, she's not doing a whole lot. So I want to let her have a little bit more opportunity to get.
She can have 2 seconds off her cooldowns because I'm going to have a 3-second unstable vortex on Janice on Tuesday.
Yes, and again with the mages, we were talking a little bit being a little bit tough for poor Hel. She was having a really tough time in lane, especially. So we want to make sure that when she's getting through to this late game potential that she really should be having. It's
5
really
to
strong.
15
so
protection reduction to 5 to 25.
Hinder specifically, being able to pull off protections is always
on top
nice,
of the fact that Doomorb got buffed and like the movement speedy builds and stuff, and the Bauble and the
spamming, but when she's fighting enemies, she's a little bit sprinkled in with the utility as well.
50% CDR Hel, 25% AoE reduction. I don't know, man. Hel could be that's big.
Going to be able to shred those squishies a little bit faster, which
that's big.
And I like this sort of buff because you still have to like hit the ability right on targets before you follow up. So there's still kind of that. Like,
you still have to hit the ability.
When do I use this?
It's literally an instant cast circle
to kind of do this to help her out.
Like
I agree.
Like a massive
not
circle.
Exactly a mage
you cannot
unless
miss
you are a Guan Unicorn player, I guess, but we have Guan Yu next.
Yeah, so specifically for Guan Yu, he was just not keeping up in lane, and that's really
a nice
the
change
big
for
buff
him.
Here is that you'll see that the biggest change, rank to rank, is going to be from old rank 1 to new rank 1, and that was simply because that even with the passive boost on Conviction, it was healing you for basically the same amount as one basic attack for a whole ability. And this ability is really strong when you're with your teammates, but in solo lane, you're not with any
doing
teammates,
that
by yourself.
thing where we go from a tank
in
meta
that
to a
laning phase
healing
is when
meta.
he was having a lot of struggles, and
You
so we're just
haven't-
giving
if you
him a
haven't
little
caught
bit of
on yet,
extra
we're doing the
sustain.
transition.
So even if he's not necessarily
We
going to
do
be able
this
to keep
thing
up
where we
and
go
clear,
tank
he can
meta,
at least
healing meta,
feel
DPS,
relevant in
tank
the
meta,
lane and
healing
not
meta, DPS,
relegated
and
to
we're
sitting
doing
under
the
tower
shift
and
into healing.
clearing the
and
minions.
spinning.
It's happening.
Cool. So the last in the standard lineup is Bacchus.
Yes, and Bacchus has been falling a bit behind in terms of his late game potential. In the early game, he's doing quite all right. He's hanging in there. The problem is that he kind of
They must be watching Last's stream and saw his damage numbers on Bacchus.
Tentatively, he's getting a little bit too tipsy at the party. So we wanted to give him a little bit more potential in terms of actually being able to feel like he's making a really big effect in the team fight, especially depending on how you're ordering, how you're using your skills. So for instance, belly flop getting a little bit of extra late game damage is going to help when you are fully committing into a fight.
Yeah, when you're getting in there.
And it certainly will start to hurt once you are getting to that late game, especially if you're using the buff that you're getting from your ultimate, which would be very, very nice. So it's going to be a very nice small buff for him, but hopefully going to help his late game combo potential.
Yeah, reel it in a little bit, really finish the party strong.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've done it. We've talked about standard balance.
Okay,
standard.
small.
Now we're in to pocket number 2. And these ones are dubbed quality of life adjustments. So talk me through that. What are we expecting here?
So with Smite 2 on the horizon, we're trying to kind of take a look at gods, just kind of in a nutshell, right? Like how do these gods feel? How do they play? Are there ways that we can improve these gods that either are a number 1 thematic win, number 2 just a fun win, or number 3 quality of life win?
I wonder if some of the changes that are already in Smite 2 are coming in.
And so these are kind of things that are like, I kind of wish that I could do that, or maybe it feels like, things have kind of been not necessarily broken, but maybe a little bit like clunky, a little slow, a little sluggish. We just want to kind of improve the feel of these characters most of all.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to get in and talk about some of these then. And it looks like Chiron was first on the QOL list.
Yes, this one's very cool. I'm very excited about this one. So
All right.
Chiron, when he dashes, he is able to basic attack, right? So he's firing arrows from his bow.
Yeah. Sure.
And so when we were thinking about it, we were like, well, when he uses two, he also fires arrows. Yep. So let's let him be able to use this potential, especially because he gets that power buff when in Giddy Up as well. You can
I wonder if that means his ultimate won't bug out anymore.
Power buff for your masterful shot, which is just really fun.
Yeah.
And then in general, what you're seeing for Centaurus here is something that you might see for a couple of other abilities coming up. One thing, and this is a big shout out to Ponpon over on the Smite 2 team, who was doing some excellent technical work behind the scenes. He brought up kind of a discovery that he made over when working in Smite 2, where projectiles have kind of a bit of lag when it comes to when they're getting spawned, especially depending on the server.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to go a little bit more into the technical explanation of this, because that's kind of...
Yeah. So anytime, on Klein, if you were to fire an ability, you have to shoot a message up to the server validates it, says, okay, hey, I can spawn this projectile, comes back down to the client, says, hey, this projectile can spawn, and we go. And so whatever you see your ping, that's usually that round trip time that we're talking about. So you have to shoot the message to the server and get the message back. So the idea here is that in order to make some of these characters feel a little bit more responsive in those situations, if you kind of adjust the timings to account for that lag compensation, i.e., I know that there's going to be some amount of ping while I'm waiting for this projectile to spawn, I can maybe kind of, offset some of these pre and post fires just a little bit to make that projectile come out maybe just a bit sooner on the server, so that I'm seeing it on my animation side coming out at the right time, like right when my hand is swiping over or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and these adjustments that you're seeing, when we say we're making it quicker, this is fractions of a fraction of a second.
It's going to feel better. But it's not going to make...
It's a small difference, right? But you will feel it as the player, and as the enemy, you're barely going to notice the difference, if at all. This is really just for each individual player to see, I'm shooting my shot, it's coming out when it looks like it should be coming out, and all that connects together. But again, as the enemy, projectiles are not moving faster. This is not changing anything about the actual ability that's coming out. It's just when you fire it. And the abilities themselves, they're not getting shorter. All of the time that's getting pulled away from this pre-fire is getting put into the post-fire. So you are still in the animation for the same amount of time. It's just, when does this projectile spawn and how does it line up with everything else? And again, you'll see this change a couple of other times. And again, I want to emphasize, fraction of a second. Very, very small, very minute, but noticeable.
It's not a buff. It's one of those things that when
fixing
you're
Ninja autos,
feel it,
let's not get too crazy.
For a lot of you
right?
gamers out there, you've hit something where you're like, I don't know what it is.
Let's not get
but
too
this just doesn't
wild.
feel right. It's stuff like that, and it's crazy that y'all have been able to discover instances of that and fix it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think there are some cases where it's a lot more egregious, and those are obviously going to be the biggest ones that you feel. And then there's some that are a lot more subtle, but we still want to kind of look across the board and apply that same methodology to any character. If it can make them feel better, we should do that.
It's the level of care that I've always seen y'all guys give, where it's like, all right, so there's something egregious, and we're going to fix that for sure, but let's look at literally everything and make sure that it all feels as good as it can. So
So you'll see it a couple of times here, and again, it's something that we want to keep kind of in our back pocket for the future. If we find more of these instances, we will be fixing them when we find them.
Y'all are cool. All right, so Kali up next. Let's keep moving down.
Okay, completely different thing here. Completely different. Let's mind shift for a second here. So again, some of these things are going to just be nice feeling changes. This is not the biggest Kali change in the world. March for Death is her passive. She's got the passive.
That's actually
wheel
just
up.
a bug
Morrigan
fix
has
for
the same
Morrigan.
passive wheel, but the difference between current
actually
Kali
just a
and
bug
current
fix
Morrigan is that
for
when Morrigan
Morrigan.
has this wheel up, she can move around. And Kali has this wheel up when she spawns, and so a lot of times you're kind of put into this quick thinking, I have to make this decision now. I have to, do this immediately before I can do anything else. Now you kind of have the ability to move around and then also select while you're getting out of base.
Purely quality of life. Purely just good stuff. So, awesome. Heimdall is up next.
Yes, this is another kind of more, again, leaning into that quality of life. When Heimdall misses a target with Through the Realms, of course,
he
which
can't do anything for
sometimes he even has just a dash, like a movement ability. His post-fire, which again we'll kind of talk about more, that's just the technical term
it's
for
a second and a half.
Technically done doing the thing that it was going to do, but now you're resolving the animation. It was lasting too long because it was lasting the exact amount of time that it would take for him to actually swing. There was no difference between that, even though the animations were different lengths. And now he will have a unique post-fire for when he misses, which will allow him to act sooner and not.
That was
be,
actually
like,
one of my
stuck in
least
the
favorite part of
CC
Hives.
immune,
Was if
can't
you
do
missed your
anything.
ultimate,
like his
or you
brain
were
was
trying to
trying
use it to like
process,
catch
I'm
up to
supposed be
somebody,
swinging
you
right
could
now,
not
but you
auto attack
missed, so you
for
just stand there
legitimately a
awkwardly
second
for,
and a half.
you know, that little bit of time.
It was
That's
so
cool.
annoying.
Can you patch out the like shame of missing the ult point blank, or
You know, if I had the power to do that, I would. But sorry.
I mean, now that you can turn around and keep firing, right? That should feel
there
good.
you go.
Yeah.
That's the copium I needed. So Charon is next up on the QOL list.
Yes. Charon
Saw
is
that
a
point.
very new god, right? But even with Charon, we found a couple of instances that we could fix up with his basic
You did
attacks and
not
his spectral
buff
surge
him.
of the timing that we
You
talked
did
about
not
previously. But
give him
also,
that much
Ferryman
more
of Souls,
HP.
This is passive where he's
You
able
did
to gain
not
max health.
buff
We've heard a
one
lot
of the best
discussion,
gods
a
in the
lot of
game.
discussion
You did not.
about infinite stacking or quote unquote infinite stacking
Yeah.
mechanics and how that could be pretty interesting and fun to have. So you want to try that with Charon, who is kind of our first step to seeing like how players really like this, because this isn't increasing his ability to like have health like more
Right.
in the early game. It's really if you are the GOAT Charon and you're getting to 350, you could go up to 998. You could have up to that much.
Yeah.
But realistically, a lot of players weren't getting to that 350. We just want to say, you know what? Go for the high score. Get as high as you can. Get
Yeah.
as close to the cap as you can absolutely get. But good luck. It's very hard.
So I have to ask, why 998?
It was a little bit of a UI restriction, and also, just thinking about 1,000 health is a lot of health, right?
That is a lot of health.
And it's not any easier to get the coins either.
Yeah.
You still have the limitation of I can only carry around 20
So
at a
many,
time,
yeah.
and I have to get them from minions. So it's not making him any better in the early game. It's really, again, the crazy Charons that were going for the high score. Now you can really go for the high score, and I'm very interested to see how high someone gets in an actual game. 'Cause
That makes a lot of sense. I just
It's cool.
the worm in my head was like
plus 1,000 HP.
8.
No.
I had to
Plus
ask, I had to be the one to
998
ask.
HP.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could let
yeah,
you
yeah,
get
yeah.
infinite health, we would, but unfortunately, we got to cap it at some point. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If you get to 998,
No, that's crazy.
You're crazy.
That's
You're
a long
insane.
game,
That's a
or
long
you're-
game.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, cool. So let's continue to paddle downstream with Sobek, kind of in the water as well.
yes, well, definitely in the water, because when he's lurking in the
We're
water,
also
she's not
buffing
really
Sobek?
in the place.
The actual best support in the game?
Yeah,
He's
he's
very
so
All right.
nerd.
And he's kind of making
All
his
right.
own water, right?
Yep.
Like
Sure,
he's
why
kind
not?
of a little bit like in his
Why
own
not?
realm, and so visually at least, it kind of is very strange when your character is like 1% above the water and you're ramming into a wall and you're getting stuck in the Ymir wall or the Odin cage or whatever it might be. So we're just giving him player pass through when he is in his ultimate. So now he's going to be able to go into that. So there's a
Swim
lot
under.
less visual disconnect when that's happening.
Yeah, visually, it's a lot more cohesive.
Yeah.
Just based on
It's
what
going
you
to
would
be
expect,
certainly
right,
interesting if
going
it's
into that
just,
Instead of the
a
puddle just
quality
kinda
of
being like,
life buff,
boom.
but
Yeah.
not a nerf to
Exactly.
compensate for the fact
All right.
that,
Well,
you
cool.
know,
So next
him,
up,
Athena, and
sticking
Karen
with the water
run the
theme,
show.
Poseidon.
Yes, this is a cool one. I mean, Poseidon is a character that for a long time has had kind of this
Hey!
disconnect.
Nice. Whirlpool won't be
where his
super
whirlpool
awkward
looks
anymore.
like it's coming out, but it's not
Nice.
hitting people right away.
Yeah.
It looks like
Yeah.
it should
People are
be
just
hitting.
narrowly escaping.
And
right?
they're like this much, and it happens
the
more
worst
frequently than
feeling.
you think, right? So for
No, it
Whirlpool,
happens
we are
all the time. It's the
increasing
worst.
or rather decreasing the time it takes to activate to make sure that it better matches the visual effect. And again, it is a
Very
very
subtle.
slight adjustment.
That is a
but
buff.
You should
That
actually
is a
be
buff.
feeling the difference as the Poseidon player, which is going to be
I think it's clear to establish that intent, right? Is that we want it to visually look like it's matching, right?
Yes.
And I think in the past it always looked like it had completed, but people were still kind of escaping, and we wanted to make sure that if it's completing and you see that visually, that it reflects in that sort of hit onto the
Yes,
target.
exactly. And we made the smallest adjustment possible to actually
Oh,
make that
yeah,
true. It was literally
A lot of iteration.
100th of a second difference between some of our iterations. But we tested multiple of them, and we got to a number that we were feeling like, yep, this is the least amount that we have to change to actually make it feel like it's hitting.
Such a crazy how micro of an adjustment that kind of like you're like, all right, well, I guess 1/100th of a second.
Yeah,
is
you're like, how much actually
how
is
do you
that?
hone in on that? That's impressive. All right, so Cuckoo up next, KukulCon, with a couple changes. Basic
Yes.
tag, Zephyr, Whirlwind. Let's go down the list.
So Kukulkan is one of the characters that has kind of been a menace lately. He's been a bit of a ranked fiend and even a casual fiend to an extent. So he is getting a couple changes here, but we wanted to kind of pair it with some nerfs because, again, he's doing very well. So with us giving him a definite buff in him being able to hit the, well, we'll get there, but hit Whirlwind more consistently.
Yeah.
He's already doing well. He doesn't need to get
Whirlwind
extra,
buff, huh?
goodness off of that. We want the character to feel good, number one, and then additionally on top of that, you know,
I wonder
we're
if
going
it's
to
going to
balance
get
him
the
backwards
Poseidon
because he's getting
whirlpool
that extra
treatment, so it's going to tick slightly
fair
faster
across the board. But yes, the basic attacks are going to be taking that timing consideration. Zephyr is also getting a cooldown increase as part of his nerf. And then if we move on to the next set of changes, Whirlwind is getting that same kind of time to activate as Poseidon, but it's also getting a 2% per tick nerf, which comes out to 12% in total, which is not a small nerf by any means.
Definitely
12% is a lot.
That is a lot, but again, cool, you know, like, and I appreciate that you're like, we want them to feel really good, and sometimes feeling really good comes with the added benefit of being a little easier to play or being a little buffed. So being able to look at that and say, we recognize this is actually a buff, and we're going to tone it down just a little bit so it's not crazy.
Yes.
Good attention to detail, in my humble opinion, as a I don't know everything player. So Ymir is up next, and I always love to see Ymir win. So what's happening with Ymir?
Yeah, this is a fun one because it's you know, we've kind of looked across the board and looked at some of the restrictions on our characters and kind of asked ourselves, right, like, do all these restrictions make sense? And Ymir, for a while, I think, you know, being one of the first characters to come out, right, he has these strong both camera and self-root restrictions on his 2 and his 3, and his ult, I think, is also self-root. So we kind of looked at maybe just the camera portion and said, could we make the character feel just a bit more fluid if we enabled your camera to move around while you were casting these abilities, right? That means you can follow up, you know, if you freeze or you slightly miss, you can at least follow up with your 2 right afterwards. You can, you know, kind of U-turn. There's a lot of things that you could do that I think just you don't notice it until you get in game and you start experiencing what it's like to have your camera unlocked. But there's a lot of like clunkiness that comes from, you know, channeling this ability, not being able to move your camera, and then all of a sudden, you know, gaining that control back. It's so much nicer that the moment you cast it, you're able to continue turning your camera and set up your next, you know, your next plan. And
it's really nice for those like micro adjustments that you're making, like in the heat of the moment. Like if I'm like with this change, I can Ymir freeze, and maybe there's someone coming from the side, and I can already move my camera while I'm doing this animation, and then immediately 2 after I'm done, and I'm already aiming to the right spot. Whereas before, I had to wait to get out of the camera lock, and now I can just do it.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I'm all for it.
Oh yeah.
So, man, continuing the thematic blocks, Scotty.
This wasn't on purpose, by the way. This just happened.
It feels like it was on purpose. It was well planned. So we're in the ice still, and we got Scotty to talk about.
So Scotty is getting, again, the basic attack timing change that a lot of other characters have gotten here. But Calder has been a naughty, naughty dog lately. He's been dying to jungle camps. And due to the way that Unleashed camps work, he will take the aggro of the Unleashed camps. And previously, he was taking 1 pip of health per hit from a jungle camp, so he would just basically die instantly to these. So essentially, we are making it so that Calder is kind of going to interact with these jungle camps in the same exact way that he would with lane minions. But very important to note, because we had to make sure that we check this one, it doesn't interact the same way with jungle bosses. He will still take 1 pip of damage per hit from a jungle boss, so no crazy tanking mechanics on Gold Fury, Fire Giant, Pyro, whatever it might be.
He's already
he will
crazy
still
tanking on those
die
objectives, to be honest.
But jungle camps, fixed up.
To be honest.
Fixed up. Went to the doggy daycare, got some training, is now good to fight those jungle camps. So rock and roll. So next up, not thematic to ice at all, Cupid.
Yeah, now we kind of got a little bit of extra action here in terms of we've done a similar change to a lot of other gods. Like Agni is a character, for example, that I can think of that got a very similar change that revolves around basic attacks, where we want to encourage you to get active with this fight, with this passive. And so when you're actually fighting gods, you're getting stacks twice as fast, and it is very important for Cupid to be getting
Cupid
to
sucks,
that max stacks for the
but
stun,
that's
for
nice.
the extra heal, for the extra damage.
I'm not gonna help him not suck.
We just want to make sure that if you're fighting someone, you're getting rewarded for doing that, and this is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, I think when you get into team fights, you don't have minions around, right? It sometimes gets a little bit harder to stack that passive, and I think this enables you in these team fights to get it back again.
Yes.
Which is really good.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, we can. All right. I found another theme. They're getting looser, but we have people with wings now for Jing Wei up next. So.
Yes, Jing Wei. So Persistent Gust has always had a buff when you knock yourself up.
Yeah.
The problem is that you don't really want to knock yourself up. You don't want to. Even though you can and then you dash away, like that is a core mechanic of her, you do go pretty high and you send yourself the same height as enemies. But now the best part is that you will be sending yourself a little bit less high than you send enemies or anything of that nature. And the best part is that you still have a decent amount of time to dash. It does decrease the amount of time that you have to dash. That is true. However, there's still plenty of reaction time to this. We had a lot of people test this to make sure that they felt like it was still a very solid amount of time that they had to dash and react to it. And in general, you are getting this buff more often, and you don't feel as bad setting it up for yourself to get the buff as well, which is very, very nice.
Yeah, I think there were cases where it could feel like a punishment to have used it, even though it was like the right thing to do. And I think we wanted to reduce the frequency of it feeling like a punishment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and a very inventive way to do it as well, just by changing the height. Yeah, that's just a cool change. So Fafnir up next a little bit.
Oh, we saw this one a lot.
Yeah.
We saw this one a lot.
This one I'm super excited about. This is like a huge point of feedback for a lot of people. It's something where when Fafnir leaps currently in Smite, there's a bit of a lock where he's not allowed to really provide any extra input till the ability finishes fully resolving. And we looked at it and we're like, what if we just turn this off, right? What if we just reset this and make it, nope, the moment you land, you can immediately start chaining into other abilities, other input. You can turn your camera, do all those things while you're jumping. And he immediately, I mean, so much of that sort of like clunkiness.
The first playtest, the person that was playing Fafnir immediately went, whoa. Whoa. That feels different. That feels good. And I was honestly like super excited to see people suggesting this on Reddit and on Twitter and things like that, seeing some of the spoiler changes. So there you go, guys. We got it.
Yeah.
Fafnir is
make Fafnir meta,
but you love when something just feels better.
It will make him feel better.
Up next with a little bit of a stance wiggle.
Yeah. So Tiamat is a very interesting character because her two stances have two very different purposes.
Very different.
And usually what happens is you want to start an upright stance like 99% of the time. And starting in the ground stance kind of puts you in a weird spot because it puts your movement ability on cooldown if you want to go back to the upright stance. And so in general, we previously noted that Tiamat had been respawning in whatever stance that she had died in, but if you want to start an upright stance 99% of the time, let's just spawn you an upright stance.
Yeah, I think a Phoenix Siege is a good example of that, right? If you had died in a previous fight and the team is pushing like a Phoenix and you're just now respawning and you started in the sort of ground stance, it might not be the best position. You might not be able to put yourself in the best position to get that damage off. Yeah. And then now you have to waste time to go back to upright stance so you have that range again. So this is just to make it so that she has more viability, more consistency across all of those different situations.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense.
That's
definitely.
an actual
So Bastet and Pounce are next on the list.
Dude, I have been waiting for this change for a long time.
All right.
So Bastet, sometimes has a little bit of issue clearing camps, especially because her leap is one of the abilities that kind of has this persistent effect that you can re-leap back. So when you're clearing a camp, if you want the ability to go on cooldown, you have to fire the leap and then leap back. And it's it's a big waste of time that you have to do when you're clearing camps, and it doesn't feel very good to be able to do that. So now, when Bastet uses Pounce, she can right-click it to put the ability on cooldown, cancel the ability to jump back, and lose her movement speed stim, so all of that goes away, but you do put it on cooldown. So in those situations where you're clearing a camp, you don't really need the movement speed, or you just want to put it on cooldown
pretty much just used for PvE.
And it's felt so nice, dude. It's been great.
We've noticed the players really appreciate that sort of control over when they get to put that thing on cooldown, because then there's a little bit more micro that they get to gain and a little bit more thought process behind it. So we figured with Bastet, especially because, again, you had to do that leap back if you wanted to reset it, it just feels so much more nicer to shortcut that and say, okay, I can right-click and get back to the state that I want to be in.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't agree more, too. That, especially with an ability like that. Like you said, maybe you just want that forward movement and you want it to hit cooldown, you want it to be up so you can use it to jump again, or if you're about to gank or something, but you're like, I'm locked out until it times out, you know? So that's one of those things that just genuinely feels good. Cool change. So Freya up next. Irradiate's getting a little...
Yes, this is her one. So very similar change here to Bastet. A little bit different because this ability was not like this before. It was just a buff and then it went on cooldown. Now it's kind of more in that same Bastet style where you use it and then it's active, and when it turns off, the cooldown starts. So we've adjusted the cooldown to kind of compensate for that change. It's not getting a full switch to the cooldown that was before, because then it would be a very short cooldown. But the nice thing about this change is that when you use Irradiate and you've got Pulse going at the same time, it changes how your basic attacks function. Which sometimes you want those AoEs, sometimes you want the extra damage. Now as the Freya player, you have that flexibility to say, okay, I want to go back to my AoEs, or okay, I don't need this anymore. I finished clearing my camps. I can just put it on cooldown and not think about it. And so having this extra, like you were talking about before, micro control just feels so nice for a lot of these characters.
I think there's cases in lane 2 where you might have started with an AoE, then turn on a Radiate because something happened, and then they back off, and you're like, okay, I want to go back to the AoE because I still have that timer going, and I want to make sure that I'm hitting the minions, but you don't have that option in the prior system because you'd have to wait for both of them to go on cooldown. So this way it gives you control to kind of cycle between them without really changing, again, anything identifying about the way that combo works.
Yeah, well, awesome. This next one, I'm very excited about.
So happy about this one.
As a resident Hoonbots player, Hoonbots and the Sacred Monkey.
This has been one of the most frustrating parts of playing Hoonbots. Probably ever.
No, I agree.
Is the teleport has sent you places where you didn't really expect to go, where you didn't want to go even.
Or didn't feel like it was firing off and you're spamming it.
Yes, exactly. And now it feels great.
So much better.
So much better. So much better. It really is kind of night and day from what it was before. It's hard to kind of describe exactly how it's changed, but believe me, when you feel it, you will understand.
Yeah, I think Mifflin had a good explanation or a good description there, which was it feels like it's doing what you want it to do now.
Yes, exactly.
Which, I mean, it's crazy how a change like that sounds so simple. It just feels like it's doing what you think it should do or what you want it to do. Sounds so simple when you say it.
Yeah.
But like the implementing and the refining of that. So you know, as one of my favorite junglers or assassins anyway, I'm super excited for that because that was always the one hold off. Is I'm like, I'm not even gonna try to teleport. I never land where I want to. Like I've never mastered it, and I feel confident now. So. Artemis is up next, and her traps are getting a little snappier.
Yeah, I think Lermy has like the full details on this, but I think this is one of the examples where I was talking about there's more egregious cases in the game of like timing is just not matching. Yeah, this is one of those cases where you'd see like the full animation, and then like maybe it would feel like a larger delay would happen before you'd see the trap.
Yes, she would essentially the animation she does she kind of like puts out her hand.
Yeah,
she's like casting the trap out. And then she would do the full animation, and then the trap would spawn. Yep. Whereas, you'd think like normally, oh, she's throwing the trap. The trap should be leaving as she's like mid-throw.
Yeah.
But it wasn't doing that. So now it is doing that. And again, it is the smallest amount possible to make it feel like it's matching.
Cool. Just love to hear it. Get those traps out more reliably.
Yeah.
So, Zhang Kui up next.
Yeah, same thing for Zhang here. Very similar lines. This is just we wanted to make sure the actual effect of the damage and the stun were matching that kind of circle that he makes when he uses Book of Demons.
Zhang Kui's 3
so this
was
is just lining it up a little bit better.
Yeah, and a little
funky
bit we continue that trend of lining things up a little bit more with Medusa.
Yep. This is another very simple one. She was doing the full like spit animation, and she would again go all the way out. Yep. Nothing would happen. Nothing would happen, and then she shoots it. So now she will shoot it at the time that she's supposed to shoot it.
Yeah,
Zhang Kui's 3 is
more
pretty
fluid,
funkadelic.
Exactly.
So Sylvanas looks like is also getting kind of that timing touch up to the basic attacks and the grasp.
Yes, this is crazy.
This is crazy.
It feels so much better for the grab, and we saw a lot of this ability get mentioned too. So we're really glad that we hit this one as well for this timing pass because believe me, like as the person getting pulled, because I played as it, against it, and with it, and. Let me tell you, I think it was playing with J-Max when it was happening. And J-Max's reaction when he first hit a pull was so funny.
And then tried to figure out why they felt bad.
That was insane.
Would be my guess.
So good. And I just love hearing reactions
transfer
like
over
that
every
from our
character and they're
playtesters.
like, okay, why does this character feel bad? And then realize all of these things.
But when you have that kind of reaction, that's when you know it feels right. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, I think that's important to point out, right? We want to make it feel so much better for the person who's playing the character, but we don't want to increase that frustration factor on the receiving end, right?
Yes,
I feel like we really hit that mark with a ton of these changes.
Yeah, and that's super cool to hear. And I mean, as somebody who's played a lot of Sylvanas, that was one of those abilities that I was always like, man,
if
I feel
only
like
the community had mentioned
the timing of this thing. It's such a hard ability to land without practice. And so to know that as the player, it might be a little more intuitive now because the timing lineup it just excites me.
And I'm really glad that so many people talked about Sylvanas and Fafnir and stuff, and because it feels good that we were also recognizing these same things when we were looking across the board. So it feels good that we're already targeting it, especially when people had just started, being a bit more vocal about it.
Also,
nice
the way that Smite 2 plays,
so
little things like
hopefully
this,
a good number of y'all are sitting there like
feel worse. I don't know how to really explain it.
Last but not least in this,
but when little things go wrong in Smite 2, it does feel like it feels even more wrong.
Same kind of idea. And this is just another character that had this kind of same issue.
I don't really know how to explain
we
it.
were noticing, and we were like, well, why not?
Something about
and
it
again,
makes it
this is
more apparent.
To put a nice bow at the end here. If you see any of these kind of changes that you think that we should touch up on, please let us know. Give us the feedback. We want to make sure that we're doing this kind of change for as many characters as we can. And there are a lot of characters, right? And there's a lot of abilities as well. So please be specific when you see these things come up. We want to be able to fix them.
Man, I was trying to do the mental math. 130 gods, at least 4 abilities per, which would be like
it's a lot.
500 something. Like, yeah, that's a lot because there's stand switchers, and man, that made my head hurt. If one of y'all has that number, tweet it at me. It'd be cool to know how many abilities
not one of those because
but,
none of those were technically bugs.
One more
the
very
ability was working the way that it was intended.
But we're gonna pivot a little bit to the last
necessarily
new event
aligned
coming
with the
this
animation.
update. And this event is called the Nether Beasts event. So this is a new one that's coming out with the 11.3 update. So that's next Tuesday.
Nezha's auto attack thing is
like a lot of the
legitimately
events that y'all have seen in the past that you might be familiar with. It is a variety of new skins and cosmetics. There's a couple different ways you can purchase through them. There will be a chest, the Nether Beast chest, that you can roll, or you can direct purchase a lot of the stuff from the past. Obtaining any 3
One
of the
time a
Nether
guy in
Beast
a trench
event
coat asked if I wanted to
cosmetics
see his
will
Nether
unlock
Beast.
the reward
And I
skin
said, "Stranger
for you,
danger,"
which
and I
is
ran
listed
away.
there. It's called Death's Rain Shock, but we'll get there in just a second. We're going to start off with the first of the 3 skins in this, and yes, they're all cross-gen. And this one is called Shadow Sentry Cerberus.
Ooh, yeah, the shadow line is one of my favorites, and I'm really glad to see it on Cerberus. This looks so cool.
Yeah, I was immediately drawn to like the spiral core, like right there at the base of the center head, like neck. That's just cool looking. Like,
I just
right
love
there on
the kind of like interesting, like animalistic, like masks going on here with each of his heads. I think it's a really neat touch to kind of pivot him a little bit from, being a dog to being some other kind of mysterious forest creature.
Yeah, Cerberus is definitely, that's something that Cerberus, I love.
Oh, he's so
turning
fuzzy.
around.
I love like the waving texture. I don't know how to describe it, but like the stuff that's like waving or phasing out. It's so nice.
That's true. Like I can't think of a good word. It's almost like looking at 3D without the glasses, the way
Very
it like offsets a
ethereal.
little bit. But no, I was just gonna say that Cerberus has canonically had a lot of really cool. Like his skin lines
puppy
can drag
now
into a lot of
glows.
places because there's like the tank and there's just like changing a 3-headed dog into a bunch of different things is always exciting. And like you said, just taking it from, it's still Cerberus, but it doesn't
What's
seem as
that
much
weird
like a dog.
heart
It really is some
rose
kind of shadow
thing on
beast
his
with
chest?
a 4th head on its tail. It has kind of a chimera
kinda
thing
cute.
going. Yeah. So anyway, let's check out that Smite 2 render since you know this is cross-gen.
Oh,
It's like his
Cool.
power. Oh, it's his
And
Tony
this has just turned out
Stark like
so
power
incredible
core.
with this one, and we've been saying this.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
show.
yeah.
The textures and the fidelity,
is.
just incredible.
Yeah, I love the way light's like blending.
Yeah,
off
his
the chest
arc
towards the
reactor.
bottom.
Yeah.
It's, like,
Yeah.
fading
It actually
out.
feels like a light source.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's been something, again, if
For
y'all seen the deep
sure.
dives, that's been something that was harped over when we were talking about FX, was the way light reacts in Smite 2. Like, you'll be walking by stuff, and if you're emitting light, a lot of times it'll show in the environment. So to see a skin like this and be like, that's emitting light, that's genuinely emitting light, super cool. So next up, Headhunters to Nunos coming at you.
Oh, he's scary.
Yeah, I don't like it. That's
In a
It's
good way,
really
but scary.
That's fleshy. Like, that arm is wet. I don't know. I don't like it. It's scary.
Well, he's certainly got the fear factor going on, and you can kind of see in the background there. That's kind of what his boars might be looking like. These little like chainsaw pig things.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I
That's
hadn't
cool.
even picked up. Wow. Yeah. Now, my question is, did he just break out of that containment pod, or did he hunt something out of it?
I think he seems like he might be making them, right? Because when he turns people into the boars, right? Maybe he's making them in
Oh,
this
wow.
lab
It's
thing.
a science. That's dark.
He's a scientist.
You just gave some dark lore there. So anyway, cross-gen, Smite 2.
Anyway.
Let's see how much more horrifying it looks in Smite 2.
Anyway.
Oh, yes,
Ooh.
horrifying.
Ooh.
Oh, and we get to see the other colors too. That's so sick.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's really awesome looking.
Yeah, I love the grit, the detail and the grit in UE5. That's so
Yeah,
sick.
he definitely feels like a monster you'd run into in one of those like horror shooter games.
His
Yeah.
weapon
A
He's gonna come in
is
and
a
get you, that's for sure.
flash.
Yeah, I like too the like
Flash
you can
boy.
see the definite area, like the hybrid.
I don't
between
like it.
Flesh and
Man
metal.
and machine.
It's
Yeah,
it's
between
made of
man and
flesh.
machine. So that is that.
I like
and we
it.
have one more cool skin to talk about. This is that reward skin I
Yep,
mentioned.
it's fingers.
Death's Rain Shock.
I'm not gonna touch it.
Ooh.
No,
Okay,
not gonna
that's
touch
cool.
it.
I love
All
it,
right,
dude.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
Where do I purchase this? Let me get it right now.
I love the presence on the skin.
There's something about smiles that are menacing that like it's this like really niche part of horror that I'm really into. Like when you make a smile make you uncomfortable, I like that. I don't know what it is.
Can we talk about the scale of this art as well? You see the little guys in the bottom right? they're praying to this gigantic death god, and yeah, he certainly will be bringing it. I mean, he's just got to take a pinky and boop,
Yeah,
and they're
boop.
gone.
And 4 pinkies on this one at least.
Six.
If not, yeah,
He's got six.
Okay, you're right. I miscounted. So again, tag yourself in the photo. I'm dude far left on his knees. That's definitely me. I'm paying more homage than anybody, dude. So, all right, let's check out the Smite 2 render of this because you know I can't not.
Okay, that's sick.
That's so
I love
cool.
the weapon.
Dude, just the
He's
again,
got
I was
these
talking about the
tiny-
scale in the
he's
art,
got
but can we
these
talk about the
tiny
scale in the
little
model?
hands.
Just how sick
These
this
tiny
axe
little
looks. And
hands.
like Chuck is a tall
He
dude.
could be a
Yeah.
This is a
president.
big axe.
That is.
I also love the double headpiece going on behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very regal.
And the details of the extra hands too. Like normally you'd be like, oh, it kind of like stands out a little bit, but this just really feels kind of supernatural and creepy, but like in a really cool way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think for a skin like this, it'd be a darn shame if we just didn't dive right into Smite 1 and give it the old lookaroo.
Yeah.
So let's check this out in game.
Oh, you could really see the back arms here.
The back arms have knives.
Dude.
I love the way they animate. That's so fun.
The animation is awesome.
It is awesome. The way they like flex out. It's really horrifying. It's giving me like.
Kind of slashes with him too in that third hit.
It's giving me weird.
Technically,
oh yeah, you're
he
right.
technically does not have wings.
Oh, and the passive with the green.
But
head pieces coming
and
into you.
yet,
That's true. Oh yeah, wow, yeah, it was going like.
here we are with back arm
FX color
wings.
just like
Here we are,
so
folks.
much, but it also fits so well.
The natural
I've always been a fan of,
progression.
like the jade, emerald, kind of just that really deep, rich green color.
Yeah.
So.
I think the trails and everything too, like off the one and the autos, look so nice.
Yeah, this skin owns.
I love that throw. It's like a flame too that follows it. And again, you know, if you get this skin, it'll be waiting for you in Smite 2. So you get to get in and enjoy what you're seeing right now, and be horrifying all about Smite 1 in the battleground of the god. And then Smite 2 hits, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play Shock. I'm gonna be this horrifying 6-armed green monster of death, or 8-armed, yeah, 6-armed. Math is.
I mean,
hard
if he looks this scary in Smite 1, you can only imagine what it's gonna feel like to play him in Smite 2, or rather, to play against him in Smite 2.
Yeah, so. I don't know, I'm pumped about it. So again, this will be the reward skin for the Nether Beasts event dropping next Tuesday. So it's March 19th. It's right around the corner. It's crazy how close. Like every time, ever since they were like, hey, updates are going to happen a week after the update show. I'm like, that's awesome, because that's less waiting that I have to do after talking about it. So make sure you check out this event. Again, roll the chest or buy direct, and you will earn your way towards unlocking that Shock skin as the reward skin. So super exciting. So now we're back in the land of the balance.
Ooh.
And we're where
yeah.
if y'all have seen some of the
Land
teasers
of
that we sprinkled out on Twitter, I guess those were more leaks than teasers, huh? So some of the leaks that we put out there, then you should be excited for this, because again, they were cooking back there and they created some heat. So we're calling these major god balance, because a lot of these changes are pretty crazy. But you know, talk about that. What led y'all
major
to cooking
god
this hard?
balance?
Yeah, so again, we kind of were examining a lot of characters going, into this transition period between Smite 1 and Smite 2, where Smite 1 still has a lot of really awesome content coming.
Yeah.
Smite 2 is also on the way, and all these characters have got to go to Smite 2 at some point. So we really want to like look at the core of each character and say, you know, is there a problem that we can fix with these characters that is making them feel weaker inherently than other characters?
Okay.
Is there something that's more fun, more smooth, that's going to resolve a lot of the clunk, get that fluidity going? Is there any way that we can update them? Is there something that we feel like this character's missing in any way? Or is there just something that will be cool to try and just see what people think about it?
Yeah.
And so a lot of those come down to what these changes kind of are at a base, and we understand that a lot of these are going to be a little bit more intense than the quality of life changes that you're seeing. And again, we are like very receptive here to your feedback. We want to know what you guys think, and if you do think that these are more fun. And again, to reemphasize, a lot of these changes are as small adjustments as possible to make sure that we can kind of keep it still, like, you know, rein back in. We're not going completely crazy here, and we want to also make sure that it feels fair for the enemies playing against these characters, as well as people playing the characters.
Yeah, and I think it gives us a lot of valuable information about, you know, which of these adjustments really do move that needle to make things feel that much better, and which of them maybe don't, right? And then we can kind of learn from that and adjust from there. So.
Yeah.
And some of these characters as well are 10 plus years old at this point, and it's not like we necessarily want to force change. But where can we make these small adjustments here and there, or even just changes throughout kits, you know, to make characters feel more interesting, to make them more intriguing, make them more fun. That's the number one for us, is fun, and we want to make sure that you guys are having fun. And if you're not, please, you know, again, tell us how you feel about these changes.
For sure.
You know, and we also are aware that a lot of this will impact the balance of these characters, and some of them we have taken that into account. So please do as well keep that in mind, as, you know, these are changes that will make these characters better. We understand that, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on them going forward because, with the last one, we learned a lot of lessons around, what that change looks like and how people want us to react after we do the changes. You know, we want to make sure that this stuff is not like tormenting people for patches on patches, right? We want to act swiftly when these things are not feeling right or things are, too strong. We want to make sure that, again, you guys are having fun. That's the number one thing. And a lot of these are really, really fun.
Really
okay.
fun.
Yeah,
I want to know what they are.
Science of balance.
They're so fun. I want to know what they are.
Something, observe it, and write down the results. And that's what y'all are doing. Y'all are being inventive and trying crazy new things. Just from what I've seen of this thus far, y'all are really, really stretching your legs and saying, what can we do to try to make things more enjoyable?
Really stretching out this
and of course,
section of the
we
patch.
will watch how
what
they
you're
land
doing.
out in the world and record how y'all, the community, react to it. And if y'all are like, that was pretty cool, but like, no, then we'll be like, got it, don't worry. So with all of that said, the wonderful preamble out of the way, let's dive in.
I'm so excited.
First and foremost, we have ESET.
I mean, this is a big change to start off with.
Yeah, right off the bat.
No, this one I'm really excited for. So the kind of big push here, right, is
25% faster. Okay.
For a long time, kind of recognized that a set has at certain points maybe been really strong. I remember back when I used to scrim, right? There was metas where we used to it was all about mid pressure and kind of controlling jungle camps. And over time, I think the game has kind of evolved where that's not fully like the most important thing anymore.
Yeah.
And I think where a set and other characters, where other characters have kind of ebbed and flowed in terms of strength and weakness. A set kind of
those scrims were against me, Chaos.
Like
Wait a second.
not as strong. There's some times where we've maybe made adjustments that brought her back into the fray, but she seems to kind of recede after a little bit. And I think for most people that have played a set, they've probably asked themselves, like what's maybe the core issue that I'm experiencing with this character. And a lot of time it's been talks about wing gust and wing gust being just a little bit too slow at getting off, the amount of damage it is, or just feeling a little sluggish compared to some other abilities. So we looked at that and we said, you know what? Let's try just speeding it up. We've talked about this before. We've tried to maybe do some other things. Maybe this has been the answer, and we should test this. We should see, is this a positive change for her?
Yeah, and we have a video ready as well for you guys to take a look at the change here. So we've changed it to be approximately 25% faster. So this does mean that all 4 projectiles are going to be taking that 25% less time to come out. So you can see on the left, you are doing it a little bit faster, but again, this is an adjusted animation. The projectiles are coming out at different times, and they're very slightly faster to also better mimic this movement. And so a very important thing to note here as well, this is kind of a shift for ESET as well, because when she uses this ability, she's getting movement speed, she's gaining slow immunity, she's getting a couple other things here that she is losing a little bit faster than before, but we believe that the damage trade-off here is going to be very worth it to get all of that damage out 25% faster.
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable when you throw it into a comparison like this. So, wow, that was really cool. That's right, like you said, right off the bat. That's a big change. So super awesome. So now we're moving into another really spicy change. This one's crazy. Ever since I learned about this one, I think. Ever since I learned about this one, I've been hyped to see it go out. So Terra is getting some cool shift.
So Terra is a character that really starts to unlock around that level 3 area where you're finally able to get this dash.
Online.
So one thing that's become very awkward for Terra is that when it comes to balancing her, she is just very, very difficult to get rolling. But once she gets there, she's really, really good. And also, she's just a lot more fun. That was like the number one thing that we honed in on, is that playing Terra without the dash, you feel like you're kind of working with half a kit.
It's missing something,
It feels like it's really missing that secret spice that blends it all together, you know what I mean? Like once you start to have this dash, you feel like a complete character again. And that was the thing that we were like, okay, we want to see how this feels, number one, because we were like, okay, this is kind of crazy. Like, let's talk about that first off. But yes, so Force of Nature is her dash. She now has access to this ability from level 1, which means you do not need to put a point into it. But the thing is, if you don't put a point into it, it doesn't do damage, and it has a 20-second cooldown, which is 9 seconds longer than the actual original cooldown of 11 seconds at this point in time, at least. The mana cost is the same,
you could
but
probably
here's the
get
thing.
your 3 at level 1 and then your 2 and then
we understand that this is going to bump
you know?
Terra's clear and ability to do all these things well in the early game up a lot, especially those first 2 levels. She's going to have very good pressure. But the thing is, Terra's been kind of MIA for a hot minute here, so we understand that this is going to be a very big shift in terms of how her presence is across the battleground, especially in Conquest, because this doesn't happen in a lot of other modes, right? She didn't have this issue because they start at level 3 and you can just be Terra right away.
Yeah.
And then you also have that trade-off as well. That's a very interesting choice where you can say, maybe I don't put a level in my one, and now I can kind of put more emphasis into my heal or my stun, or I can get my ult and not really think about it. So you have another kind of choice to make now, which I think is really interesting to do amongst that. But again, you are suffering in that. You're not getting the damage from that, and it's a 20-second cooldown. So I mean, 20 seconds for a dash is pretty long, but again, it does unlock her potential, and that was the number one thing. We want this character to feel like a whole character from minute one.
Yeah, it really gets the kit mechanics.
That'll certainly help out her early game a lot.
Super cool. Cthulhu is up next, a terror of the mind.
Yes. This one is definitely another crazy one.
This one is crazy.
Every single one. I'm going to say it every time, but Cthulhu is a character that is very kind of methodical and slow, but we want to make sure that he's not feeling kind of without agency when you play him. You were spending a long time channeling the Mire previously, and now we wanted to kind of see. This is a testing phase as well, right? We were like, okay, what does it feel like if we kind of take this down by quite a lot and let him kind of play the combos? Because one of the biggest parts of Cthulhu's kit is being able to get off that full kind of madness combo to get them up to the number of stacks that you want, then increase your mitigations towards the mid to late game. And it's so hard to do that. It's incredibly hard to do that.
I think before you feel a lot more restricted because you have to do these things in sort of sequential order. I think by now, like kind of unlocking, when you can cast and other things during that ability, it makes it a lot easier to have a lot more choice in the way that you want to engage in certain team fights, the way you want to play your lane, right? I think it just kind of opens up the character to breathe more.
Yes, and we understand that argument as well, because people go, okay, well, I play against Cthulhu in lane, I cancel him out of this ability, and then he's got nothing, which doesn't feel very great for a character. But again, we want to make sure that we aren't eliminating the counterplay. You still can cancel this ability if you are, a very savvy player being able to play against it. And again, you'll get used to it. But let's take a look at it visually in game and how it looks and feels to kind of just illustrate this a little bit better. But here is kind of the duration that you'll see and the freedom that you get, bro. It feels
so nice.
It feels like you've unlocked something new, which is it just changes the way that you play this character fundamentally, and it's felt like a new character almost. Like I can't even explain to you how different this has made Cthulhu feel and how much more agency I have as the Cthulhu player. And again, we understand that this is a very, very big change, and this could impact a lot of how he is able to participate in team fights and in laning phase. And again, the counterplay argument is something we are very, very inherently aware of. So again, please give this a try. Tell us what you think and how you have enjoyed playing Cthulhu, or if playing Cthulhu has gotten more frustrating. Or playing against Cthulhu has gotten more frustrating, rather. So do keep all those things in mind.
I can't tell you the
last
time I saw Cthulhu, so that's okay by me.
When they actually play him and get their hands on him.
Yeah, because like you said, before it was so necessarily sequential. Like there was an order you had to do things in, and if that order gets interrupted, you have to back up and wait for that order to come back. Now you freed it up. You've knocked it out of order. Think you can do things in different ways. The combos are changed. So this is going to be another one of those where we pass it out to the community and y'all go absolutely bananas with it, and we're looking forward to that feedback. So this next one was one of the leaks that we shared is Agni, and y'all got to see how his ult is a little different now, the way you cast it. So let's dive into that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of buzz around this one. I mean, Agni is anybody who's followed kind of when I was playing pro back in the day. Agni was definitely one of my favorite characters. To grind this character a lot, and one of the things that I kind of felt like we always ran into, and I've chatted with other Agni players and stuff. There's a little bit of sort of momentum stop to this character. Right? This character is very fluid in terms of movement, dashing around, doing his combo, and then there's kind of like an abrupt momentum stop when you're trying to do some of these really cool things. And we wanted to see again kind of in this vein of like unlocking fluidity in characters, making characters more fun, making them more exciting.
With Mage
if we just maybe unrestrict that movement a little bit, and he's slowed, right? It maybe wasn't clear in the video that we had leaked before, but it's slowed. Yeah, it just slowed movement. Does it make the character feel like while they're doing these sort of combos, it's a lot more fun, right? A lot more engaging. And again, it's that same sort of opposite side of the equation, which is, does it feel frustrating to play against? We ran a ton of internal play tests to make sure, can you still punish him when he starts ulting? And again, yes, that slow makes it very easy to still follow up on him and do all these things. But I think for the Agni player, there's a lot new excitement going into this character.
Yeah, and let's take a look at it again, just so for the people that didn't see this before, they can get a chance to see it. And so again, he is getting slowed. He can move though, but like Chaos was talking about. It's just, it feels night and day for the Agni player to be able to kind of, again, keep this fluidity, keep this motion that you're doing, and it really feels like you, not necessarily like playing a different character like I would say to the level that Cthulhu is, because it really isn't that big of a change in terms of the actual mechanics of the ability.
Yeah.
But when it comes to your combos and your ability to kind of feel like you can shift targets and like you are focusing on the right thing, it does feel
I honestly
very, very
don't
smooth.
think
and
it's
again,
going to be
like you were talking about, we did a lot of testing and a lot of balance to make sure we were feeling like we were unanimous in where where he should be able to walk to and how much he should be slowed by. And we tested a lot of different values, and the value that we're at feels
right. Yeah.
Feels right. It feels right. And again, we want to make sure that the counterplay argument is still there, and we did agree in general that when we were playing against this character, it did feel like he was moving a little bit, but it wasn't something that I could never get used to or that a lot of our playtests just felt like was impossible to play around. It was just something that had a significantly bigger increase for the Agni player than it had any kind of decrease in ability to counter or increase in frustration for the enemies. And that was the most important thing that we asked every single time. Every single time when a playtest was done, what did you guys think? How did you guys feel? Was this frustrating?
And we're aware, right, that Agni in many ways is viewed kind of maybe at like the central point of balance in certain things. So we're obviously being very careful here. We want to pay very close attention to kind of see how this change, pans out. And I think it's good, especially, to that Smite 2 point, right? Kind of test where these lines really do benefit the game. And maybe those lines are too far, right? But it is good to still kind of establish that value because it helps us make better informed decisions moving forward.
Yeah, and when you hit the nail on the head, it's all reward for the people that like playing that god, and none of the consequences for the people that play against them, like you said. Obviously there is a difference you will notice as the opponent, but the more you can hone in on these changes where as the person playing it feels amazing, it feels fluid, you love it, and the person that you're playing against doesn't feel immediately like they're being crushed because of the change. It's such a fine line,
are in fact still going.
Y'all have hit it in a lot of places, and like you said, it's a constant.
I cursed myself by saying a regular patch notes is normally an hour long. These are not a regular patch notes.
It's a
These
really
are a
cool
2-hour long
direction to
patch
balance
notes.
in. Is how can we make every individual experience feel as good as possible while you're playing it, and while not punishing the people that you're playing against.
Exactly. I think that's one thing that we really want to emphasize is that a lot of people
Okay,
play
but when
Smite
do
for
the
the
patch
gods.
notes start,
And
though?
we can do as much item and balance and number tuning and things like that, but if the god doesn't feel fluid to play or fun to play, then people are not going to want to play it. And Agni is a character that is relatively fun to play, but we were like, can we maximize this? Can we make it better? Can we improve this experience for people? And again, please let us know how you feel about this change when it comes down to it, but please do give it a try, because honestly, when you feel it out, it feels like
that A/B comparison, you immediately recognize it. Yeah.
Rock and roll. So this is one that I'm super excited for. I'm a Zeus player. Zeus is next on the docket, and the shield is getting a little love, and I think probably the best way.
At last.
Yep.
Some might say at last.
I think this is a very common request that we've seen. I think Zeus, for the most part, he's come in and out of favor in certain ways. I think Conquest has always been a tricky spot for him. I think in the alternate game modes, he's definitely a lot, a little bit more easy to play in those situations. But in Conquest, there's always been a little bit of a struggle in terms of doing that laning phase and then kind of transitioning into the mid and late game and some of those things. So we felt like kind of looking at the AO2 as a big part of where those frustrations lie.
Yeah.
And one of them is, if you throw out the 2 and it's in a situation where you no longer need it to be there or something like that, you're waiting for it to expire before it goes on cooldown and all these other things. So the first one that we wanted to do was you can now press 2 to recall the shields back, immediately start your cooldown. It gives you, again, talking about that basket change, for example, it gives you a lot more control over when you start that cooldown and when you kind of want to be in and be out. And then the other aspect we were kind of asking ourselves is, can we still, maybe give him a little bit more sense of urgency when either, he's trying to clear the wave or when people are coming at him. And we felt like, oh yeah, if you look at the 2, it looks like the 2 should be kind of applying a charge when it lands. So we went ahead and also kind of added that, as it felt like it made the character a lot more consistent in terms of getting to those 3 charges.
Yeah, making his combo feel like it was actually achievable, and you had more ways to skillfully get to that 3rd charge without needing to kind of get lucky and really force like a super hard engagement, which for Zeus is really challenging a lot of times because he is a rather immobile character. We wanted to make sure that having some kind of combo potential there did feel good, felt right. And again, we understand that this is another kind of character that does bring frustration in non-conquest modes, but we did feel like a lot of these changes don't affect them as much because, when Zeus is playing in Arena, he plays so differently from Conquest. And this is mostly going to resolve around people that are around the shield, playing near the shield, and backliners far away from it. Not a big deal.
I don't have any issues with any of this so far.
It will improve his clear a lot. It will improve his combo potential a lot. So we are keeping a close eye on Zeus in terms of his performance.
Zeus is way
especially
stronger
in Conquest,
in Smite,
but
too,
also
so
in
don't even
non-Conquest
worry
modes
about it.
because we want to keep an eye if we
Don't
need
even
to
worry
increase those
about it.
non-Conquest changes or anything along those lines, or just a general nerf across the board. Because again, we understand a lot of these are buffs for these characters, but you know, we want the character to feel better and more fun, number one.
I think it's worth saying too, right, in terms of consistency, right? If you can make the kit a little bit more consistent, it also becomes easier to balance, right? There's other knobs that we can tune and turn to make the character, you know, if the character ends up being a little bit too strong from here, we can always tune some knobs to get them back. But the fact that it's more consistent makes it easier to make these sort of adjustments. And that's also the other, you know, side of the coin that we're trying to look for. And we think that this helps us get to that point where it is a bit easier to balance.
And it's not even to say like that it makes the character easier either, right? Because you still have to execute a very specific combo to make sure that these kind of situations that you get to 3 charges, or really any of these characters, you know, to that point. So we're hoping that this kind of unlocks a new kind of skill cap for these characters, where you need to play around with these new kind of changes to really be able to min-max how long your shield is out versus how much you need the attack speed and the movement speed stim, or how you place it to actually get all the charges.
We are
on the
really
wave or the
discussing
enemy, or
these
combo into the 3
changes.
charges.
You know,
it is important to point out too, if you recall the shield, right, you lose the benefit for the shield being out.
Ends
right?
the ability.
We are
It's the
discussing
same thing as that best, I think. So yeah,
these
exactly.
changes.
Yeah.
This is why the patch
I look
notes
forward
take
to it
so
because
long,
I
we
like
are
being
really
able to
discussing.
micromanage my cooldowns, and that's
We're getting
just
deep into the
a huge
weeds
thing. Whether you're pushing lane,
of
you want to bring it
discussion.
back because you're at tower, you're chilling. Like, I just like being able to micromanage when my cooldowns are happening, and that it's just a cool change. I like that. So.
Yeah.
So another one that we leaked out onto the Twitterverse here, Odin up next.
Yes, surprise, we didn't leak all of them. We only got some of them because some of them are a little bit harder to actually see in practice. So here is the first one, Raven Shout. This is a shield. So this ability has always had this component of it that felt a little strange, where you get bonus damage when the shield's at full health. But that's the thing. It's kind of this binary on-off. You get hit by an archer minion, and you no longer get this benefit anymore. So we tried a couple of things, right? First, we tried shifting the actual threshold that you would get the extra benefit at, and we were like, well, it's not the clearest thing in the world to see. I don't really know as the Odin player, like when I'm hitting these thresholds. So we decided, okay, well, Bird Bomb is the classic combo. It's what every Odin player wants to do. So now you just always get this bonus damage when you Bird Bomb. If you don't, you don't get the bonus damage on the shield explosion. And again, it kind of makes him a little bit more consistent, but in a way that's very predictable. So again, a lot easier for us to balance and play around. You're not getting as many of those unpredictable situations where it feels like Odin's randomly doing a lot more damage than before.
Yeah.
Now you always know, I'm getting Bird Bomb, this is going to be doing more damage.
Yeah, I think a common complaint we ran into, and you kind of alluded to with the archer, is like if you're in the laning phase and you're trying to get this, you know, full damage combo off, and you pop your shield, and all of a sudden an archer gets 1 auto on you because it decided to target you or something, you lose like that entire extra scaling, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to just make that more consistent, so you don't have to worry about those really weird fringe cases where it completely, you know, hurts your ability to do what you want to do.
And like you said, the consistency helps us be able to, like, it makes it feel better for the player, and it helps
Dunk
us monitor
Daddy
it and
is
say,
back.
all right, now that this is consistently happening, we can balance around it more consistently as well.
Exactly.
So that was the first of 2 changes. So then there's the second change.
Yeah, Skynyr's Might. And we did actually, this is the one that we spoiled on social. So this ability, previous version, used to have 3 charges of it, where you would
That's a significant
pulse
buff.
once, pulse twice, pulse 3 times, and each one of those effects had a different kind of sub-effect that you would get depending on the amount of time that you charged for. So the first one, still exactly the same, attack speed buff for yourself and anyone in the range. Exactly the same. The second one previously was that you would get a homing projectile that would automatically hit the person that was closest to where you were aiming, which was nice, but a lot of people kind of unanimously agreed that this one was the least, you know, important of the 3, because the third one, of course, is the stun.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, Odin player wants a stun.
It also had a small window, right? Like the first one, you know, if you want to get that off, right, you're kind of spam clicking really quickly. The third one, right, you get all the way to the end, you know, you could just wait. That second one was always like in this awkward little spot where it's like most of the time, if you're in a certain engagement or certain situation, you might not even want or get to use it at the timing that you want to.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like issues with that. Second,
Nobody ever
stage.
used the second one.
In terms
Literally
of
ever.
really being able to maximize its
Ever.
use. And theoretically, you know, the projectile is something that I'm not trying to say like
just don't miss
if
forehead.
You don't hit it, but it didn't seem like a very cool or powerful effect to be like it's just a guaranteed hit. It's just something that we were seeing as generally undervalued, and like yes, we did see like some people discussing like, oh well, in axe meta it's really really good, but we think that the trade-off that you're going to get for getting the stun faster and getting the damage out more consistently is going to be way better in the instances where you're actually hitting those things, which, cross your fingers you're hitting them, but you'll still be getting those procs assuming that you're hitting them.
Yeah, so that's a good change. And I mean, who doesn't want to stun more? I'm all for it.
Significant.
Yes. To clarify just one more thing, because I saw some discussion, you will still be able to indefinitely hold it. That was one thing that I saw some people questioning, if you could do that or not. Yes, you can still indefinitely hold it.
So, pocket it, hold it, walk down lane, really be menacing, throw it when you need to.
Yeah, let's just take a look at the video, though, because I do want to bring this up so we can just take a little look at how it actually feels. So here's our attack speed stim like normal, and boom, that's the stun. It's it's such a big feels difference when you had that extra bit of like time between the guarantee of like being able to get to that stun and get to the place where you want to be. And it's also nicer that you don't have to channel this in the middle of the wave for that much longer.
Yeah, it tightens up the combo.
And if all of the damage got distributed out as well, those two pulses are going to be thumping.
Out of a bird bomb or something. So rock and roll. So that is Odin, and we saw the
leveling
feedback.
up the 3 is probably
going to like always. So y'all know that.
But bird bomb always has the damage actually. So leveling up shield is probably going to be
great
more
and
dope.
also terrible. Like,
we
listen to both. We like one of them more, but they're both equally valuable. So now we're away from birds and into spiders. Arachne and her cocoon.
So Arachne was a member of the previous Spicy Gang, you could say. She did get a previous change back, I believe it was in 10.9 around that point.
Yeah.
And that change, we felt like after reevaluating it after a couple patches of it being in the game, it just felt like it still wasn't hitting the mark that we had wanted it to hit, being a change that we wanted to make to this character. So what we're doing here is kind of a give and a take. The first thing that we're giving Arachne players is now you no longer need to hit consecutive basic attacks to actually get your stun off. Anytime that you hit the number of basic attacks that's required, which we'll get to that in a second, you will stun the character as long as you still have your stun available.
Yeah.
The attack speed is still decoupled, so no matter what, even if you use it for stun, you're still
keeping
your attack
for
speed.
as long
but
as
now
the
it takes
duration
3
lasts?
successful basic attacks on a single target to stun versus 2. We also felt like when we did
that
that
mean
change
you can
previously,
stun like 2 or 3
it became a lot more
times if you had enough
frustrating and hard
attack
to
speed?
react to for players against Arachne, and that was one thing that we wanted to keep an eye on. And as we've let it kind of simmer for a couple patches here, we've definitely felt like, especially for making this consistency change, we need to bring that back to 3.
That makes sense, and I like the ability now that you can weave it in, and if something breaks that auto attack chain, you don't have to worry about it. You can circle back, get those last couple auto attacks off, and sink it in, even if the chain was interrupted. So, rock and roll. Spider scary. Jing Qian up next with a big face in the chest.
This one might even be one of the craziest ones. Like we were talking about Terra, we were talking about Iset, we were talking about Agni. Bro, this change is crazy. This change is crazy. So we're giving Jing Qian a brand new effect on his passive, and we were kind of observing this character and how he's kind of been a little bit out of the meta. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit, because we've given him buff after buff after buff, and he's just not been showing back up. And there's a lot of reasons why that's happening, but his passive, we were observing, is just kind of a little non-applicable in a lot of cases, where you're just getting some extra HP 5. It's nice, it's extra sustain. It's not really, it doesn't feel like it's really impacting you all that much. And now we wouldn't feel like he's definitely impacting the situation. So we're giving him a brand new effect on Smoldering Rage, where anytime that he gains a stack, he's still doing that same stacking that you did before. Hit enemies, you get stacks up to 12. He gets temporary max health per stack. So he can kind of really lean into this kind of max health, sustain tank ideal almost. He's still keeping the HP 5. And on top of that, because he's keeping the HP 5, a lot of times he was overcapping because of his builds, but now you can do it on purpose because HP 5 is uncapped. You can have as much HP 5 as you want on this character specifically. It's been really, really fun to
actually legitimately might make Jing Qian one of the best solo laners
we've seen like
in the
130
game.
HP 5, 150 HP 5, and it's been a very different and unique way to play a tank, is having this kind of like sustain way where I need to keep hitting my attack, so I keep getting this HP 5 back, but I'm just like, I'm tanking by being elusive, hitting enemies, and just still doing what I need to do as a tank, but I'm getting sustained back for doing that as well.
And we've tried many areas to like uncap certain attributes, and we've always found it, again, a lot of fun. It seems to help kind of evolve the game a little bit, and so we figured, HP 5 on a tank, like it kind of makes sense to give this a try, especially with Xingtian because it fits his theming. So yeah.
Yeah, he is the relentless one, so very relentless.
Very relentless, especially
that
now.
change is very Smite too.
Maximum health, we were kind of looking
Smite
at the math behind it.
There's not really caps.
Anytime, let's say you have 800 out of 1,000.
There's not a lot of caps in
right?
Smite.
And suddenly your max health
like
drops.
attack speed
it looks
caps
at
the
what
same
percentage
thing, like
of your health that you have based on your max health, what percentage of your health you have, and it retains that when you go down in max HP. So if it reduces by max HP and you had 80%, then you retain 80% of the new max HP when you go back, which means you kind of lose some HP anytime max HP wears off or something. So with Xingtian in particular, we wanted to make sure that he retained the benefit of the max HP that he gained in his current HP. So for example, right, if you, I think if you're at 2,600 out of 2,800, and all of a sudden your max HP drops to 2,600, you'll stay at 2,600 current HP. Whereas normally you would have dropped whatever, if the percent of that was, I don't know, let's say 90% or something, you would have dropped to 90% of 2,600.
Yeah. So essentially, you can reduce the maximum health, and if it's gray health bar, it just moves closer towards the green.
Exactly.
So you maintain.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool. Actually, that's a very good clarification. So, all right, rock and roll. So we're down. We have 2 left.
Yep.
And Shiva's up next.
Yes, Shiva. This was a very fun one. I have heard many a complaint and seen many a clip of a Shiva stopping short on a wall, but no longer will that be the case. The first part of Pillar of Dawn previously had a component where you could aim it, and when it came to the interactions with walls, no matter how far away you were pointing it, it would always stop you immediately on the wall whenever you came into collision with it, which was very frustrating for a lot of Shiva players because you were losing a lot of distance, and I assume you were about to say it didn't feel very intuitive. Yeah,
it didn't feel natural, compared to a lot of the dashes where you slide against the wall. It didn't. It always seemed weird that you just all of a sudden would stop.
Yeah, dead stop.
Exactly. But we understand that one of the most important parts about Shiva is that he's using this ability kind of as a damage mitigation. Like, let's say there's a cuckoo ult coming down straight for you. Well, I can hop into Pillar of Dawn and be totally fine. So now that you're kind of forced to be in this longer dash, we wanted to make sure that you weren't losing that damage mitigation part of it. So you are keeping the damage mitigation during the dash part. So now, even though you're forced to kind of take a little bit more time to get into the pillar, you are still going to get that damage mitigation immediately on using your dash.
Yeah, wow. And that's huge, like you said, because that allows you to take that longer dash without the consequences of not being in the pillar right away.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Cool. Overall, just a good thing. And last but not least, we're at the end, and it's Athena.
Yes, this is another recipient of a previous spicy change.
Yeah.
And so, especially because post that change, it's been a bit of a nerf city for Athena. We wanted to make sure that this was kind of a bit of a change that unlocked a new kind of loop in her kit versus strictly making her better. So Athena's big identity outside of her taunt and global ult, of course, is her block stacks.
Yeah.
So although she no longer is getting block stacks, which inherently means that you're no longer losing any procs, any Pele ults or anything of that nature that are enhancing your basic attacks, you're not losing that proc anymore as the enemy. You, as the Athena, are instead getting 60% damage mitigation per stack of that preemptive strike that you have. So no longer are you getting block stacks, but you are also going to be able to get these stacks from reach now. So anytime that you're using reach, if you hit a god with it, once per reach, so you can't
slightly more stacks now, but the stacks are significantly
Every time
worse.
that you have a reach, you have an opportunity to get a stack of 60% damage mitigation from the next basic attack damage that you take. So again, you are losing something as Athena. You're not keeping these block stacks, which as a character that does take basic attack damage pretty frequently because you're taunting them at you, it does make it a bit difficult for her in that instance.
That's still
but
a nerf.
we think that
That's still a set of nerfs for sure.
So much more. And the Athena player herself is also getting this extra little mini game to play. How many mitigation stacks can I get any particular time? Because one thing that we were noticing was that she frequently, so her passive meter has the 3 shields on it, which represents the block stacks that you had. But here's the thing, if you were only getting them from preemptive strike, you're only really often sitting with 1 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So giving her more ways to get these stacks but making them less powerful felt like a new fun loop that this character could have that's not directly involved around her taunting, which is her kind of bread and butter. We wanted to give her more agency in terms of playing around it in a different way. But again, want to emphasize, Athena's good right now. So we nerfed her as well. Shieldwell's getting a decreased slow from 20 to 15%. This is just kind of another kind of tap in that direction where we understand Athena's very strong.
Yeah.
We're giving her something new, something fun to play with, but we want to make sure that, we're keeping an eye on her.
Why is
keep
this
her from
taking
being that
forever?
global powerhouse that we all know she can be. So, wow. That was
quick math says you can usually get 200 HP
It's been a lot. Y'all have poured a crazy amount of work into that stuff.
Plus
just
the shield,
the amount of feedback rounds and talking to people and decisiveness y'all have had to go through, and it was a lot. There are changes in there that would occasionally pop up, once every couple updates that y'all just did a whole batch of, and it's crazy to see. So I commend you for that. But I also turn again to the community. Like, y'all saw the type of stuff that we're doing, that we're looking at for this update. It's a lot of stuff. It's how can we make things feel better, not just balance wise, but gameplay wise. So, I would very much like to a call to action, if you will, to say, try these out. Try out the new changes. Let us know how you feel about them after you've tried them out, and let us know how your favorite character feels. Is your favorite character somebody that's been around for a long time and maybe could benefit from 100 millisecond nudge in the right animation direction or something? Because we're looking at this kind of stuff now, and the team is just doing incredible work in that. So again, I applaud y'all, because that is a lot of really intense changes we just talked about, and y'all have been crushing it with this stuff. So.
Yeah, this is definitely a big goal for us this patch, was to give a pretty big section of the God roster something new to
I have a new theory, actually.
And I mean,
I have a new theory on this
quality
stuff,
of
and I
life
actually
and
like
major
it.
changes was between 30 gods. Well, if you add in just the regular balance, that's 5 more. If you add in the item changes, and how many gods those affect, it's a huge shift.
I've got a theory.
We're hoping that people really enjoy.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, I think we're on the path to Smite 2. We're giving everything a critical eye. We want things to be fun. That is at the core of everything we do. We want it to be fun, because that's what it's all about, So again, I applaud y'all for all of that. And if you stuck around for this whole show, because it's been a lot of show, I applaud you and thank you for being here, because it's been a blast talking about all of this with y'all. So now that we're at the end, to recap everything we talked about.
No, don't do that.
Smite 2 Founders Editions are on the way. They're coming soon. I don't have an exact date for you yet, but they are on the way. Keep your eyes open. We'll get them to y'all literally as soon as we can. As soon as we have all of the checkboxes done, we're going to be like, please, everybody.
Probably
we want to get ready to have y'all in these early alpha
Those will
testing
probably
stages.
be
So
ready
keep your
for
eye
this
out
month.
on all of your favorite platforms for those Founders Editions as they launch, and pick up whichever one you feel will
I'd be
serve you
surprised
best,
if they were not
for
available
our
this
future in
month,
Smite
because I
2.
do think they want
Make
to
sure
do
link
the
those accounts
alpha
and say
in
that again,
April,
'cause
and
we want you to have all of this stuff.
they're going to want people to have enough time to buy the
legacy
thing, to
gems
play the
and
thing,
cross
because
gen
they want to
skins
make
for
the
you to
money
not
for the
have
thing.
them in Smite 2. So make sure you're linking up those accounts. And then, in the Smite 1 world, all of this will be dropping next week, but PTS should be going live sometime soon. Could be up in the next 5 minutes, could be a little longer. Just keep your eyes on Twitter. We'll put it out there. We'll let y'all know when the doors are open. And I believe that we have a Dev Insight show after this as well.
Yeah.
So make sure that y'all stick around for that after the break to ask any questions you have. That was a lot of crazy balance we just went over. So if you have any questions or, suggestions, make sure to stick around and ask all of those, because you're going to have Lermy along with a couple other folks ready to talk about them. And, they always have good things to say and good insight to provide. So, again, thank y'all for sticking around. It's been an amazing show. Looking forward to Smite 2 and up.
So, my theory now on all of those quality of life changes, now I'm thinking it actually makes sense, because what I think they're doing is they've got all of this workload on Smite 2, right? And for the most part, all of that workload has to basically be done in Smite 2. But one of the workloads that they can kick to Smite 1 is God edits before they basically transfer them over. So if they can make small changes in Smite 1 in the God balance and the animations and stuff, that's going to be less work that they have to go do in Smite 2. So it's a way to utilize their current time and their current employees that are working on Smite 1 to make changes that are actually going to impact the quality of life of Smite 2. I think that's actually probably what they're doing there, which is smart, because it's basically a way of doubling down and getting more people to work on Smite 2 that are actually just working on Smite 1. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal, like a legacy gem situation, right? It's like a 2-for-1 deal on the employee workload there. So I think that's probably what they're doing, which I think is smart, because obviously you have to keep working on Smite 1 to keep the player base around, but let's be real. Everybody wants to play Smite 2 and is excited for Smite 2, but it's just not ready yet. As they said, 11 gods expected for that first alpha. By the end of alpha, it was looking like what? I forget what the exact number was. It was a part of the final Founders Pack. It was like 22 gods, 26 gods, something like that. By the end of the alpha, 23, says Cypherx, and probably 23. So probably 11 gods on the first alpha weekend, and then 23 gods by either the last alpha weekend or the launch of the first 24/7 beta. And then from 23 gods to 50 gods in between beta to free-to-play launch, which is January of 2025. So that's kind of the time frame. That's kind of what we're looking at. I like it. Patch seems good. All seems good. Pleasantly surprised, actually, by the size and depth of the patch. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a Twitchin' day, y'all.